Well, I don't think we'd seen a case quite like this here in Nashville, just with the level of the institution, the serious nature of these charges. From the beginning, you knew that lives were probably going to be changed.
It was atrocious. I tried my best to describe the images, but there's no words for it.
There was a bunch of different stuff flying around the team saying they did this to her and they did that to her, and it was just the most disturbing things I've ever heard.
Vanderbilt University is a prestigious private research institution in Nashville, Tennessee, often referred to as the Harvard of the South. It consistently ranks among the top universities in the United States. It isn't typically known for its football prowess. In fact, the Vanderbilt Commodores have historically struggled in the sport. This began to change when they hired James Franklin as head coach in late 2010. A former assistant coach at the University of Maryland, Franklin had a reputation as a great motivator and a top-tier recruiter. Under his leadership, the team saw immediate improvement. In his first year, he led the Commodores to a 6-7 record, a significant improvement from their previous 2-10 seasons. In 2012, the team achieved a 9-4 record, the best in Vanderbilt's 97-year football history. At that point, things were indeed looking up for the football team, and student excitement soared with Coach Franklin's recruitment of Brandon Vandenberg. Standing at 6 feet 6 inches and weighing 260 pounds, the 19-year-old Palm Desert, California native was regarded back then as the nation's top junior college tight end. For Coach Franklin and the rest of the team, Vandenberg was the final missing piece to their championship puzzle. Little did they know the man they brought in to lead the team to glory would instead become the catalyst for the university's biggest scandal to date. In early June 2013, Vandenberg was introduced to a 21-year-old Vanderbilt student. This woman was a neuroscience and economics major who worked for the school's athletic department. In addition, she was also a member of the university's dance team. As part of her role assisting Coach Franklin in recruitment, she was assigned to give Vandenberg a campus tour. It didn't take long for them to hit it off, sparking a flirtation that led to several dates over the next 2 weeks. As Vandenberg settled into university life, on the evening of June 22, 2013, Vandenberg and the woman visited the Tin Roof Bar near the campus for some drinks. They spent the next few hours enjoying cocktails like gin and tonic and cinnamon whiskey shots. Later that night, Vandenberg treated the woman to a blue drink he dubbed the California Long Island Tea. After finishing the drink, the woman and Vandenberg decided to leave. By then, it was already almost 2 a.m. on June 23, 2013. The couple hailed a cab and headed straight to the woman's apartment. However, once they were there, neither she nor Vandenberg could get her key to work. Not wanting to disturb her roommate, who was asleep inside, the woman agreed to spend the night in Vandenberg's dorm room at the campus Gillette Hall instead. To get there, Vandenberg drove the woman's black Mercedes-Benz while she struggled to stay awake in the passenger seat. They arrived at the dormitory just after 2:30 a.m., with the woman now completely passed out. At around 8 a.m., the woman woke up with a terrible hangover and her body aching. Vandenberg was no longer in the room, so she decided to go back to her apartment. Her roommate was shocked to see how disheveled she looked, but when her roommate asked about what happened, she couldn't answer as she had no memory of the previous night's events. Moments later, when the woman changed clothes, her roommate noticed a visible bruise on her marked with what appeared to be a red handprint. Curious to know what actually happened to her, the woman texted Vandenberg. In the football star's reply, he explained that she had gotten sick in his room, so he spent the whole night taking care of her. He also attributed the bruises to her having fallen over. Upon finding this out, the woman felt embarrassed and apologized to him. Later that day, the two met up. Surprisingly, Vandenberg was exceptionally kinder and even more affectionate than usual. The couple then shared an intimate evening together to cap off the day. On the morning of June 24, 2013, a maintenance worker at Gillette Hall discovered a broken door in one of the rooms. Suspecting it was damaged during weekend parties, the worker and several other staff reviewed the hall security footage from June 22 and 23. They only intended to determine how the door was damaged and identify the responsible party, but what they uncovered instead was something much more sinister. The camera at the main entrance of the hall captured Vandenberg arriving around 2:31 a.m. On June 23, 2013, he was seen exiting the woman's car and calling his teammates for help. The teammates who came to assist him were Corey Lamont Batty, Brandon Banks, and Jaborian Tip McKenzie. Batty was a 19-year-old wide receiver on the football team. He was a local Nashville native and a standout player at Ensworth High School before joining Vanderbilt. His mother also worked at the university. Also 19, Banks was a defensive back on the team. He came to Vanderbilt from Maryland, where he had been a successful high school athlete. At 18, McKenzie was the youngest on the team, hailing from Naz, Mississippi. He was recruited to Vanderbilt as a 3-star prospect. Vandenberg and his 3 teammates were seen on camera carrying the unconscious woman from the car into the hall. Notably, a campus police vehicle was nearby, only a few yards away from them, but the officer either didn't notice them or didn't perceive the situation as serious, so no action was taken. Once inside Gillette Hall, the 4 football players were captured on camera laughing as they carried the woman's body. At 2:35 a.m., footage showed them dragging her out of the elevator and dumping her on the floor, causing her skirt to roll up and expose her body. Some of the players then took out their phones and snapped pictures of her. The 4 men then resumed carrying her, taking her down the hall to room 213, where Vandenberg and his roommates stayed. About half an hour later, they emerged from the dorm room around 3 a.m. Vandenberg was seen wearing only red shorts and using a towel to cover a CCTV camera. Shortly after, another camera captured the 3 other players leaving Vandenberg's room. Soon afterward, Vandenberg appeared visibly concerned, making phone calls. Within minutes, several of his other teammates arrived and spoke with him in the hallway. The woman was then seen leaving the dorm at around 8 a.m. These surveillance videos weren't related to the damaged door that the staff were investigating, however, they were also quick to recognize that something horrific might have occurred in room 213 in the early morning hours of June 23. On June 25, 2013, Gerald Black, an associate dean overseeing student misconduct hearings, conducted interviews with 9 student athletes in relation to the CCTV footage. Campus officials later alerted the Vanderbilt campus police, who performed their own interrogation that same day. The 4 football players, along with another teammate, Chris Boyd, convened at a nearby Popeyes restaurant to talk about the incident. Account that she had passed out in his dorm and he had taken care of her all night. The woman also revealed to the authorities that she and Vandenberg were intimate on the evening of June 23. The officers then asked if she would undergo a medical exam to determine if she had been violated. Though initially reluctant, she eventually agreed. The test results revealed traces of Vandenberg's bodily fluids on the woman's body. However, since she had already disclosed being intimate with him on the night of June 23, this alone was not sufficient evidence to indicate that she had been harmed. Compounding the problem was that more than 72 hours had already passed since she was taken to Vandenberg's dorm. At this juncture, it was also too late for a blood test to determine if the blue drink he gave her had been spiked, and so the investigators decided to look elsewhere for evidence. The next person they interviewed was Brandon Banks, who remained tight-lipped and denied any wrongdoing. The detectives then interrogated the other players who were seen in the hallway that night but weren't in the dorm room. All of them admitted to seeing the unconscious woman. They also mentioned that Vandenberg denied doing anything wrong to the woman, pointing the finger at the other 3 instead. However, with no DNA evidence of the 3 found on the woman, this was difficult to prove. A breakthrough came when 2 of the football players revealed they had seen cell phone videos of the woman inside the dorm. This was crucial because the detectives now knew that there was video evidence documenting the crime. The investigators then shifted their efforts to obtaining copies of these clips. They immediately seized the devices of the 4 football players involved and made significant discoveries. In Batty's phone, they found text messages to his friends trying to make sure that the videos had been deleted. Meanwhile, Vandenberg's phone revealed a Google search asking if police could retrieve deleted picture messages. Furthermore, the authorities found out that he sent copies of the videos to two of his friends back in Palm Desert. This proved that a video documenting their suspicious behavior existed, and so the 4 student athletes were dismissed from the football team on June 29, 2013. In addition, they were banned from the campus as the authorities ramped up their investigation. In late July 2013, detectives Gish and Mayo flew to California to interview Vandenberg's friends, Joey Quino and Miles Finley. While Quino admitted to receiving those videos, he quickly denied ever watching them. Finley, on the other hand, was more forthcoming. However, both made suspicious claims about their phones. Quino claimed his was stolen, while Finley alleged his was broken. It was evident to the authorities that they were making efforts to protect their friend. In the end, though, it didn't matter what they did to their phones. It turned out Quino had previously synced his phone to his computer. This meant that all the videos Vandenberg sent him were automatically saved to his computer. After going over Quino's computer, the investigators finally found what they had been looking for, and the contents were quite appalling. "We just recovered the worst nightmare for this victim." In one clip, it showed Banks taking photos of the woman's body. There was also a video of one of them sitting on the woman's face. In another clip, Banks and Batty were seen using their fingers and a water bottle on the woman, and then there was one video that depicted Batty relieving himself on her face while exclaiming that she deserved it because of the color of her skin. Vandenberg was already too intoxicated by this point, so he just sat cackling and encouraging his teammates while filming these horrid acts on his phone. Meanwhile, Mackenzie mostly stayed in the background. Detectives Gish and Mayo could only hope that the woman would be able to cope with viewing the disgusting clips of her attack. With the evidence in their hands, Vandenberg eventually agreed to cooperate with the investigators. He arranged a phone call with Batty while the detectives were listening in an attempt to get him to confess. However, during the call, Batty remained tight-lipped and refused to confess. Fortunately, Mackenzie decided to come clean and tell everything to the authorities. He primarily pointed to Batty and Banks as the ones who took advantage of the woman while absolving Vandenberg of any wrongdoing. Finally, on August 9, 2013, Brandon Vandenberg, Corey Batty, Brandon Banks, and Jaborian Mackenzie were officially indicted for their crimes against the 21-year-old student, whose name is kept from the public to protect her privacy. That same day, Batty was arrested by the police at his Nashville home. The following day, Mackenzie turned himself in at the Nashville Police Headquarters. On August 12, 2013, Vandenberg was apprehended at the Nashville International Airport following a trip out of state. Banks was eventually arrested weeks later. The detectives later showed the horrifying videos to the victim, who was utterly devastated. Despite this, she bravely chose to proceed with the case and confront her assailants in court to ensure they faced justice for what they did to her. The trial of Vandenberg and Batty began in mid-January 2015, with Banks and Mackenzie's trial set at a later date. The legal proceedings lasted 12 days, with a total of 25 witnesses called to the stand, including the victim. The victim courageously faced 2 of the men responsible for the worst night of her life. During her cross-examination, she revealed a text message from Vandenberg asserting his innocence regarding the accusations against him. At the time, she believed him, but looking back, she expressed feeling devastated and betrayed. Having genuinely loved Vandenberg made discovering his actions and realizing he had lied to her especially difficult. Vandenberg's friends, Joey Quinzio and Miles Finley, also took the stand, revealing what the men did to their phones. Quinzio testified that Vandenberg had said he smashed his phone and threw it in the lake. Vandenberg's lawyer argued that his client's only mistake was recording the incidents, suggesting he deserved a more lenient sentence for exercising deplorable judgment. He noted that Vandenberg at least had the sense to be upset afterward. A pivotal moment occurred when Batty took the stand, admitting, "I was just drunk out of my mind." This is something I would never do in my right state of mind. I would just like to extend a personal apology to her." When asked if he took responsibility for his conduct after seeing the footage, he replied, "I do. It was me." The trial concluded on January 27, 2015. Afterward, the jury deliberated for 3 hours before unanimously finding Vandenberg and Batty guilty of all charges. However, Vandenberg's defense team discovered a reason to declare a mistrial. One juror had been a victim in a similar case but had failed to disclose this information. The defense argued that the juror's personal experience could have biased her decision-making, rendering the trial unfair. On June 23, 2015, Judge Monty Watkins granted the mistrial for Vandenberg and Batty, and their lawyers requested separate retrials. Corey Batty's retrial occurred from April 4 to 8, 2016, resulting in a conviction on all charges. Despite the victim's hope for a 25-year sentence, the judge sentenced Batty to the minimum allowable of 15 years in prison, noting he would still face a life sentence due to the lifelong requirement to register as an offender after his release. Brandon Vandenberg's retrial was held from June 13 to 18, 2016, where he was also convicted of all charges and sentenced to 17 years in prison. Judge Watkins emphasized Vandenberg's apparent remorse but noted he had betrayed the victim's trust, justifying the longer sentence. A year later, in August 2017, Brandon Banks was convicted and received a 15-year prison term. Jaborian McKenzie, who testified against the other three, agreed to a plea deal that included 10 years of probation and lifetime registration as an offender. He was the only one among the four who did not receive a prison sentence. In the aftermath of this case that shook Vanderbilt University, the chancellor released a statement condemning the students who were present during the incident but failed to intervene. The university subsequently reviewed and strengthened its policies on intimate misconduct, alcohol use, and athlete behavior, implementing comprehensive programs aimed at preventing similar incidents in the future. Following the convictions of her assailants, the victim released a statement through her lawyer thanking the detectives for their efforts, calling them her heroes. "You are my heroes, and I am so proud of and grateful to each of you," she said of detectives Gish and Mayo. However, she was the real hero throughout the trials and retrials, bravely facing her attackers and reliving the harrowing ordeal she endured. For the investigators, her bravery in testifying against the assailants and carrying on with her life truly deserved immense commendation. She is Wonder Woman. She has feelings just like us, just like you do, just like all of us in this room. But she's got a tough soul.